I think you should be hearing me now. Let's lower the volume of the music a little more. And there we go. You should be able to see my screen now. I think I have the chat open. Yeah, I do. So, welcome to another edition of Miguel Tries to Figure Out How to Do Stuff and Fails Thoroughly. Let me close the door. My room here. Better. Anyways, so I've been recently getting into game dev, and by recently I mean this week, and last one a little bit. And I've been learning C#, and I've been learning how to use Unity. And then I say, okay, I've learned enough. I made an example project teaching me how to do a simple game. I then converted it to mobile as an exercise. That's very bad. I'm not going to show that. But then yesterday I said, okay, let's actually make an actual game idea, and let's see if I can pull it off. Let's see where I get stuck. And then I started working on this, which, by the way, the graphics are all placeholders. They are from a pixel art kit I downloaded from the internet, with a license, of course. But yeah, I wanted some art, and I'm not good at art, so for me the important thing now is to make it work. So I have here my gamepad, and I can click play, and I'm actually going to make it so that this maximizes on play. So now I can click any button, and my character appears, can jump, it can move around, the camera follows the player. And yeah, it can jump, it can crouch, can go through places it could not go before while crouching. You have jump, you cannot jump in the air, you have control on your character in the air. That's basically stuff, but the cool thing about it is that now I can use a different input device, like another gamepad, or in my case the keyboard, and I have another control. So this has local multiplayer, kind of. The camera follows both of the players, has an issue right now where it also follows the center, and that should not happen. And also the background works when you are zoomed in, but if you go a little bit too much to the side, you can see the borders there, which is not good, and also here. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with this. It took forever to get the local multiplayer working, and I had to do some pretty hacky stuff. There's another issue though. I made some code so that you cannot jump on yourself to get infinite jumps. But the problem is that now if I jump on top of the player, you get stuck in the jump animation because it does not detect the other players as round. And so I cannot jump on top of someone. So I'm not sure of the best way to fix that. And that's not what I'm going to do right now, because I can live with that for now. What I want to do now is to figure out a way to create a lobby where players can join and then start the game when there are some players, because right now you just start the game and people start appearing. And that's going to be tricky, because the part where characters spawn is easy, the part when I display a count of the characters and stuff should be also easy, and by easy I mean not take me a lot of hours, but then I have to figure out a way to keep the players and the code that assigns the players to each gamepad between scenes. And if you came from web dev like me, scenes are basically like another web page, like another page in your website. So it's difficult to keep state. You don't have something like local storage or stuff like that. And I'm going to have to do some hacky global stuff. And I don't know if that will work. And I also don't know if I'll be able to like spawn people on spawn points. This is something I also don't have right now. Because the character is spawned on the coordinates of the prefab that I created. A prefab is like a reusable object. So if I turn this player object into a prefab, then I can create as much players as they want and they will all have the same stuff. I don't have to create them manually. So when I created the prefab, it was situated right there. So then you'll see that if I click play, the player appears there. Yeah, and this just messed up my windows for some reason. Let's get this here. We want the GitHub window there, and we want the animator window there. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, I have to. I would ideally want to. I want to ideally want to create spawn points where the user appears, but I don't know how to do that. Let me remove the gizmos because that's at a fixed resolution. There we go. So yeah, first off, I'm going to try to create the lobby because that's the hardest part, but also that could get rid of spawn points or at least make it easy for me. And then we'll see. This is not like a usual stream where I know what I'm doing. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing usually, but now I don't know what I'm doing, don't know a lot about the programming language, don't know a lot about Unity, so this is going to be a mess. Okay, let's stop jumping around and get started. Wow, this is very good. Thank you. Took me an entire day. So, first of all, here we got our main scene. We are going to go to scenes, and of course, I don't have the project navigator. No, that's not what I want. I want the file explorer, I believe. Window, general. Oh, there we go. So I can add that in here as well. And let's see if I can like change the layout. So it shows up. There we go. So, sorry. Scenes, and I have our main scene, and then I'm going to create a new scene. I don't even know. Here we go. And we're going to call this lobby. And let's switch to that scene. Don't mind this. This is GitHub stuff because this is not checked out. So now we have an empty scene. First thing I'm going to do is change the background. Where what's the color at? Here we go. Make it a random color, and then we are going to have a UI canvas. It's basically where you can drag elements. I need to set this to scale with pixel size. Let's make it 300 by 200, and that will do. It's showing up as enormous, but apparently it doesn't affect that. So I can just ignore that this is the camera and this is the thing, and it will work. So let's first add some text for the players. We're not going to make it pretty right now, we are just trying to make it work. So UI text, I'm going to use text mesh pro because I believe it's better. So let's not do that because UI text, and we are going to say here current players 0. Let's use a font that is not awful, like, I don't know, this could look either nice or horrible. Let's go with this one. Can I drag this here? No. Well, let's go to the Unity asset store and grab a decent font. So, font. Pixel font. I mean, this fits the theme. Let's add it. And it went away. Amazing. Add to my assets. Open in Unity. And we're going to get the font, download, and import. And we don't want the demo, we don't want the README, I think we want the font settings. And we're going to keep all this. Import. There we go. Now we have the font. We are going to use this background. It's cool. So let's add that in. Add an image. We're going to dock it to the center of the screen. And of course this should be messed up. Make it that it fits the entire screen. This is going to mess the aspect ratio so much. Needs to be a little bit bigger. There we go, and a little bit in this axis as well. This is going to look horrible when I load it. Oh, it does look kind of decent. Surprisingly. Yeah, let's leave it like that. We have a background for our scene. And now we're going to have I don't know what any of these do, but we have a material in here. I mean, here. So our font, I'm guessing, is this. And here we can say current player 0, and of course we need to put this below. Now we need a material, which I believe we have here. I don't know which of them is a material though. This one. And I don't know what changes that does. Well, what that changes for anything. Oh, the text color. That's a nice. Needs to be light. So I don't think we can change that here. Let's set this to wrap and truncate. Here we have the color. Leave it like that for now. We are going to position it here. Does look good here? It does. So now we need two things. We need to allow players to join, and to do that we're going to need some kind of ground. So let's see if we can make this mark. Let's see. First of all, we are going to need a player manager. It's going to be an empty object. Empty objects are basically when you make an object that doesn't have any kind of rendering, but it does have functionality like scripts. So in here, I'm going to want to add an input manager set to this, so I can set the player join the event and player left event so that this calls my functions. Then we need to say join players when button is pressed, so that they appear in here, and then they're going to spawn in the middle. Probably want to disable joining and set limit the number of players. I don't know if I can, but I would ideally want to toggle the number of players, as in you select how many players you have. Let's see, slider. Yeah, that looks nice. And maybe you can say players 0 of 0, and then we can use this to set the maximum. Let's find this to the image as well and see what happens if we play this. And where's this error coming from? So it's going to take a little longer. Because right now I'm using a new input system which allows me to use gamepads and the multiplayer thing, but the Unity UI package apparently does not work with this by default, so I need to find a way to do it, and I don't know if it's as easy as doing this. Oh, there we go. I think that I need to add it in here, like we get rid of this. There we go. And now, if I press play, we don't have that error anymore, and this also doesn't work, but we'll get to that. This is using its own configuration. This is fine. Alright, that should be sorted out. Let's get back to the slider. So we have our interactable slider. And we want it to go from 0 to 4. Maybe from 2 to 4. Because the maximum that we want to allow is 4 players, at least for now. There isn't any technical limitation. But yeah. So I don't want to make 0 players for now. Let's make like 0 to 4. That makes sense. And then we have some way of updating this text. So on the player manager, I'm going to add my script for this script player manager. Going to drag that in. And this does something different. This is what I use to set the camera to follow all players that I create. So I'm going to say to only do this if we have a camera. I believe that should not throw any errors. And now we also want to get the text. So I'm going to say public int max players, and then a private int I don't want player count, because player count would represent the current number of players. Guess we can use max possible players and then max players. Because, actually, let's just go with max players. And now we want to reference to the text. So public text, and we will need to import here unity.ui to use text, and we're going to say player count text. And we're going to have a public void on player max change, so that this gets called when the maximum number of players changes. And let's see what parameters we get from there. So on our slider, we want to say on value changed, and we get a single. So I don't know what it is, but let's say single. Say with int max players. Let's see if that works for Unity. So we're dragging here the player manager, and we want to call the player manager on player max change, but we need this to be a single value. Say single, and this is of course going to complain. So maybe we can view the source of this to see where it gets single from. I love that there are a lot of samples. So here we are invoking with an m value. It's a float. So let's see if this makes any difference. There we go. Now we get a float. And let's just make this a float, because why not? Shouldn't make any difference, and we'll make our life easier. So we are just going to say and we can have the same name for both of those. So max selected players, and we're going to say text, which is called player count text dot set. Leave it something like, or maybe text equals players 0, because we don't have joining yet, from, and then we can join max selected players. We can save this first. And here we can use a value. I don't know if we'll need to save this for anything. Maybe to disable joining when there are that many. And here we call to string, of course. Let's try it out. I don't know if this will work. Play. I still can't drag this for some reason. But if I go in here and change the value, nothing. Let's check that so it doesn't get a thing. Take to interactable. I don't understand. Let's change the color a little bit. So the highlighted color is going to be like a green, and now this will have. Oh no, that's when you are pressing it. I think we want this selected color. No. I don't know what I'm doing. Here's where you change the color of the things that are selected. Let me slide this a little bit. There we go. Make it like that so that you can easily see. So now why doesn't it work? Let's dock this to the end of the screen. And this should work. Let's go to the window analysis input debugger. And let's dock it right here. We have UI click. I have to create this myself. Simulate touch input from mouse or pen. Simulate a touchscreen. No, I still don't know what that does. And the mouse is not supported apparently. Unity Impact System OS X mouse. Editor project setting. This is disabled. See what happens if I change this to local. That shouldn't affect anything because that's for the companion app. I don't know anymore. Maybe open the input actions. So UI, click, set to the mouse button. So apparently I don't have configured. Keyboard and mouse. Doesn't seem to recognize it. Let's see. Settings, input settings, open input settings. Oh, there we go. Supported devices, mouse. Let's see if that fixes anything. There we go. There we go. So now we have a problem here. You can see object reference not set to an instance of an object. So I have no idea what that means. This is looking super messy. Let's get rid of this. And of course I opened it up in a different place. On player max change, object reference not set to an instance of an object. Oh right, yeah, I forgot to drag the text in here. There we go, that should fix it. Let's hit play. And now you can see this number up here updates. So now we want to first of all disable joining when the maximum is reached. So if we're going to have to keep up a count of players, so click on the input manager can probably do that for us. Let's get a copy of that. Private player input manager. There we go. And now we can say input manager dot count, max player count. Let's say here we set, instead of setting this to max players, we can set it to player, input manager dot max player count. I will need to change this to int. So let's see how we do that in C#. Okay, so it's kind of like PHP. And there's only going to be whole numbers anyways, so we shouldn't have any issues here. Let's see the problems here. Property on indexer. Max player point cannot be assigned, it is read only. And I set max player count. So see methods. So we only can enable joining and disable joining. Okay, so back to the old approach. If max players is bigger than selected, here we can say if max players is bigger or equal to input manager player count, input manager dot disable joining. And then when a player leaves, if the max number of players is bigger, actually here we want to check if the player count is smaller or equal to the max players, and here we want to check if the max player amount is lower than max players, and if it is, we can enable joining. So that is done. Now we need to set the player count in here. So we're going to say, okay, let's make a function for this, void update text, and we are going to get an integer for the current players and an integer for the max players. And here we're going to call just some good old concatenation. Yeah. And actually the current players is always going to be input manager player count, so we can get that for free. And the max players is always going to be max players, so we can just call update update player text here so that it refreshes. So let's do that here, and we'll also do that anytime someone joins or leaves. There we go. And now now not only this number should be updated, but also this number. Let's try it out. This is going to get a little weird, I believe, because the player is just going to fall to oblivion. So right now we start with a max player count of 1, and the mouse is not working again. Nice. So let's see, where did I configure this? Yeah, this is gone because I did it in play mode, I believe. Should be saved now. Now it's going to affect the player manager. Here we have a max player count. And that should be changing actually. Let's see what happens if we change this to 2. Oh yeah, because we are not updating that, we are just disabling joining. So let's get rid of that because we are doing that manually. And let's say we have 0 players and then I try to join. And it does not work. And if we have 1 player and I try to join, it also doesn't work. Because I haven't added my prefab there. And let's enable joining by default and get rid of the limit there. So let's try that again. We have 0 it does work here, cause but that didn't. We have our one player here, but that didn't update our count. See if we can figure out what's going on. Let's just debug.log in here, the input manager.player count. Try that out. And open up the console. Alright, I didn't configure the events. So I want to on player join call on player join and on player leave call on player leave. Of course I would forget to do that. And now it should work. So 1 of 0, and then if I say 1 of 1, I can join. Okay, I can. So we've got part of it working, but we need to set the maximum. We need to disable joining by default. And here we can say if max players, we can do it cleaner. We can say max players equals 0, and if true, we want to disable joining, and if false, we want to enable joining. Okay, I can do that. So let's say if max players equals to 0, then we want to disable joining, so it's going to be true. And then if the number of players is less than max players, we want to enable joining. And we can return here. Actually, we cannot. Let's just make another void. Enforce player limit. In here we're going to do this. If input manager player count is greater than max players, we want to enable joining. And I want to return here, but I won't be able to. So maybe we can do return in there. And then else. There we go. And else we disable it. There we go, that should work. And now we want to call enforce player limit on when the total is changed and whenever someone joins or leaves. And if my code is correct, which I think it is, and we are also going to call this on start, because in the start is going to be 0, and that will disable anyone from joining until we start changing that. We want to enable this here, though, I believe. Let's click play. And we have 0 now. If I click to join, nothing is happening. If I set this to 1, we can join. And we cannot join with the keyboard. If I set it to 2, we can now join with the keyboard. There we go. So now sorry. Now we have the player count. We need a way of displaying the players and clicking start. The problem is I don't know where our players are going right now. I think they are falling into oblivion. Let's zoom in here. This is where they should appear. And let's join. Yeah, as you can see, it's falling. So we're going to make some kind of room. Or actually, if I get this correctly, I should be able to make this the same size of the canvas. Not like that though. I need to change the orthographic size to be enormous. Something like that. And now, if I click play and join, we should be, if I did things correctly, should see our player going away, and we don't. And I think it will, let me check my theory that it will still spawn in here because of the coordinates. So we want this player first of all we want let's say some spawn points, and we want the player or players to spawn in here. So let's add a new child which we are going to name spawn, and let's give that a little thing so that we can see it. We are going to want to move this here and here so that it's in the center. And now we want to make our spawn point going to be really small. There we go. Put here, for example. Now we've got to get a reference of spawn points. We're going to have multiple. So let's say public an array of transform spawn points, and here we can say that right now we have one, and it's this one. So then, when a player joins, let's take care of this first, and then, sorry, we're going to take the player dot game object dot transform and set it equal to a number between 0 and spawn points dot length, and get a spawn point from that list. What's the issue here? Property GameObject.transform can't be assigned, it's read-only. Should be able to be assigned though. We can say dot set move. I don't remember the function for this. Let's do set position and rotation, and this is going to get a vector tree. And we just set no. So in here we got our spawn point. Let's say transform spawn point. It's going to be a random spawn point. And in here we are going to say spawn point dot position and then spawn point dot rotation. And that should get our player to random spawn point, which right now is just going to be 1, of course. And now, hopefully, if we play, and I still don't see my player, let's enable gizmos, so hopefully I can see it falling better. Nope, still nothing. It's in here. Let's drag it up, and the problem is that it's too small. See what happens if we scale it up. Still nothing. Where's our camera? We can see it in our camera, but I believe it's below the canvas. Something like that. Let's see. Unity, canvas, camera. Match canvas with main camera. Change the canvas component render mode to screen space cameras. Canvas component, render mode, camera. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of my camera because I resized it a lot. Let's have a new one. And of course I shouldn't do this in play mode because changes don't will disappear when I quit play mode. So main camera, and this is going to be at the top. There we go. And now we want to fit this to the camera and this camera. There we go. That's a lot better. Now our player manager, we're going to reset its position. We're also going to reset the position of the camera. So that it is on 0, 0, 0. And now we want to reset the spawn points. And this point is going to be right about here. Let's try that again. And now our player is falling again, as you can see here. It's a little bigger now. Let's try it with the camera enabled in here, so that hopefully we can see it better. So I'm going to join and pause. There you go, and you can see it there. It's our player. Camera is too big though, and this should be orthographic. And I change that on play mode again. This doesn't need perspective, it's orthographic, and that should make it the size we need. Let's make sure that these spawn points are where we want them to be. There we go. One more time. And now we see our player in there. We need a light. No. So let's slide to the global light so that everything is shown. And that should fix our player being dark as we saw in here. So now if we try again, you can see here it is, and you can see it. You can't see it in the main camera. So let's figure out why you can't see it in the main camera. There we go. I needed to reset the position on the Z axis. So now, finally, our player is gonna fall down, which is not what we want, but there is an easy fix for that. So let's get rid of the gizmos, and we are going to make this a flat surface. And we can do that by making an empty object, and let's call it ground. And we are going to add a box collider to D. And let's size it so that it covers center. Right, so apparently I have to go to grab a lunch, so I'm going to leave this, and maybe I'll stream a little bit more after. We'll see. Have a nice day, and bye.